The Night, a Demon Called, my late-night radio show, by Black Friday's Witch, 13. I used to work as a radio DJ in southern Ohio, not far from Cincinnati. I had a crappy late-night show with maybe 5 listeners put together. I played a lot of oldie music, like stuff from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Most of the people that listened to me were over-the-road truckers that were driving through and would call in to shoot the shit and request songs to get them through the long nights. One of them, Randy, was a regular caller, and he always had a funny story to tell, and would often request older music from the 1960s. One night, it was getting late, and it was a pretty slow night. It was only about 1:30 a.m., and out of boredom, I asked my callers to call in and tell me about a time they had something strange happen to them. A few people called in. They weren't unusual stories, just your run-of-the-mill stories of deja vu, being in the right place at the right time. And then my buddy Randy called. "Hey man, how are you doing tonight, Randy?" "Oh, hey there, KJ. Boy, do I got a story for you," he said in his deep southern accent. "Well, you've reached the right place to tell it." Well, this is one of those stories that are life-changing in a way. It happened when I was about 16. I worked at a hotel my uncle managed, and I helped by running errands, cleaning rooms, taking out the garbage, and doing laundry. Well, this one night some lady comes in, and she's older with dyed hair, only it's dyed jet black except for a white streak. She has on makeup, but it's nearly white, and she has on ruby red lipstick that's smeared on the corners of her mouth. Her eyes were all done up in jet black eyeliner and thick mascara like a corpse. She had so much makeup on. Well, I only noticed her because she had this bright green suit on and carried this bright pink suitcase. She had insisted on only staying in room number 6. Number 6 as in 666? I asked, chuckling. Well, maybe. I honestly don't know. Well, my uncle had given me the cue to go make sure the room was ready, so that meant I had to run out and check to make sure it had clean bedding and that the garbage had been emptied. Well, when I got to the room, there was some trash in the wastebasket, so I took to the dumpster and I dumped it out. I wasn't paying attention to my surroundings after I emptied the garbage. I turned around, and that crazy lady with the messy lipstick and green suit was just standing there staring at me. She had these cold black eyes, and I had not noticed them before. She put her arm out and began pointing at me. I stood there just looking at her with my mouth gaping. Then she says something weird. She says, "You have an appointment at midnight." Well, I looked at her, and she slowly turns and walks away, back toward the room, and she shuts the door. Before she does, she points at me again, and this time just smiling with that crooked red grin of smeared lipstick. Well, that's a weird story for sure, I said, shaking my head. "Oh, that's all right, KJ. It gets better. That night I get home and I go to bed, and it's roughly 11:30 or so. I'm drifting off to sleep, and suddenly my legs feel like they're burning. I sit up in my bed and look at the corner of the room. There's this weird, shadowy figure just standing there. I can't make out what it looks like, but it starts to cackle. It reaches out its hand, and then before I know it, it's morning again. Must be the strangest thing that has ever happened to me, and I swear I have never been the same since. I just don't know, KJ. I think it put a curse on me. Everything in my life always ends, or people die. There's times I feel like it takes possession of me. I don't know what to say, but that's probably the strangest thing that's really ever happened to me." I sat for a long while and then paused. "Well, thank you, Randy, for sharing your experience. We gotta go to commercial now." I sat there and got ready for my next caller to call in. The commercial was over, and then it was time to take the next call. "Hi, this is KJ, your late-night host with the most unusual stories for you tonight. Who's next? Welcome, caller. You're on the air. I sat, and I waited, and didn't hear anything at first. Just some breathing. It was heavy, and sounded as though whoever was on the other end was either sick and having trouble breathing, or they fell asleep waiting on me to answer the phone, and they were just snoring. Hello? Caller, you're next. Again, nothing. So I hung up the phone, and I picked up the next call. Hello, this is KJ, you're on air. I waited, and again, there was nothing, just some wheezing, or heavy breathing. I wasn't sure what was going on, so I hung up the phone. I saw my technical assistant Troy walk by, and he looked in. Everything okay, man? He asked. I'm not sure. My mouth holding up with my hands. He looked at the telephone, and then out of nowhere, the building lost all power. Even the generator was not working. I had no idea what was going on, so we both found flashlights. He tried to see if there was a reason for the malfunction, and just as he was getting ready to investigate, the power came back on. This time, almost all the phone lines had someone waiting on the line. This never happened. I looked at Troy, and he at me, and then I apologized on air for the malfunction, and then took the next caller. I looked up at the clock, and it read 3:36 a.m. I only had an hour and a half to go. Hey there, KJ. It's Randy here again. Is everything okay? That was really weird. Oh, hey, Randy. Thanks for the concern. So after your last story, I got everything... Well, you got anything else out there for us? The other callers seem to be sleeping. I noticed all the other calls dropping when I picked up the call from Randy. I felt tired suddenly, and the air seemed to go out of the room. I took a drink of my coffee and sighed. Oh my, yes, he said in a high-pitched hiss. So many stories to tell, but only one, I think, for you, my dearest KJ. His voice sounded as though he were doing a very bad imitation of a grandma. I held in my chuckle. This was going to be good. Oh, really? Well, what kind of stories do you have, Randy? Randy? Randy is no longer with us. Us is very scared for poor Randy. Us has a message for you. I was holding my mouth to muffle the laughter I was about to burst into. This was hilarious. So, tell me, what is the message? You have an appointment with the master very shortly. The line cut off, and Troy looked at me. He too was laughing. This is going to be so amazing for ratings tomorrow. I smiled, but I was on the verge of unease. Randy had never called in and acted so odd. I mean, I didn't know him personally, but he always seemed like the guy who wouldn't just call up and pretend to be a demon. I took a few more calls, and then exactly 5 a.m. I got off the air and hurried to my car. I knew it was probably theatrics, but it was still creepy. I got into my car and drove home. At the time, I lived alone, and I had a quick bite to eat, showered, then went to lay down. I was lying in my bed when I slowly began to doze off. It was completely dark in my bedroom. I had those shades that blocked out the sun so I could get a bit of shut-eye before I had to get up and do it all over again. I was just drifting slowly off when I felt my lower half begin to burn. At first, I thought I just had an itch, so I scratched my legs to kill that burn. It slowly got hotter and more painful. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw it. There, in the corner, was a shadow slowly moving toward me in my bed. I sat frozen, unable to move, and it began to cackle. It was cackling and slowly gliding in my direction. And then I saw these dark eyes that were darker than night itself. I reached over to the bedside and turned on my lamp, jumping out of my bed, looking around the room. Eventually, I felt myself feel so much better, lighter. I got up, looked around, and assumed I was just half asleep when it happened. Eventually, I fell asleep on my couch. I didn't hear from Randy again after that night. I only worked as a DJ for that station a few more weeks before I quit. The pay just wasn't worth it. I had this constant uneasiness working there at night. I was never one for believing in paranormal stuff, but that experience was odd to say the least. I've had some odd experiences over the years working in radio, and if I think of any other crazy stories, I'll write them out for you. I just hope I never meet the acquaintance of whatever that thing was in my room. And I hope if you're out there, Randy, you're safe.